Today we have the 2018 governor election prediction that happens every month. Today is Wednesday, August 1st, and we're going to go through all 36 contested races in the 2018 gubernatorial election. So we have 7 Democrats starting off and 7 Republicans. Here's the current composition according to 270 to win with the political parties, with 33 Republicans, one away from a majority that they had before, which was the largest majority the Republicans ever held, or any political party ever held, at 33 seats, and the Democrats at 16 and 1 independent seat from the state of Alaska. So when it comes down to it, there are a number of new opinion polls that have just come out, but also we've seen a number of approval polls come out as well. So that's going to factor a number of things into this race, but we also have to note a number of these safe states. States like Tennessee, Tennessee, I'm not going to fill in as a safe state right now because we have new polls out of there that show the state is no longer a safe state. But South Carolina, I see as safe. Nebraska, South Dakota, Wyoming, Idaho, not Indiana. Pretty much I filled in all the safe states for the GOP, and now it's starting time to fill in all the safe states. Actually, I didn't fill in all the safe states for the GOP. I failed to recognize those northern states. Massachusetts goes to the Republican Party. Vermont goes as well to the GOP, putting the Republicans at 16 seats and the Democrats at 7. But of course, there are safe Democratic seats. States like Oregon. Oregon, actually, we're not going to put it in the safe column just yet, but I want to talk about it because it did get a little bit closer in opinion polls, but still, that race will still end up in the Democratic column by the end of 2018, not the GOP column. But there actually is a pretty good GOP candidate that I want to talk about, so we'll come back to the state of Oregon before we finish this video, of course, because we have to come to every single state. But typically when looking at this map, there are a number of states that you would expect to go safe to the Democrat, states like Massachusetts or Vermont or Maryland, but I'm not going to put them in the Democratic column, obviously, because they have very popular Republican incumbents. So a number of people have been saying things on my recent governor election prediction saying how are states like Vermont and Massachusetts and Maryland blue, not blue, and they're red. I mean, they're red. These states are probably going to remain in the Republican column. Don't want to reveal any more predictions until we actually get to it, but they asked why aren't these states blue, and a number of people don't really expect a number of these races to have Republican identity. I mean, a number of these races are in the Northeast. They should be Democratic based off presidential elections. If states like Pennsylvania and New York are blue, why aren't states like Massachusetts and Maryland blue? It doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but when it comes down to it, just look at the power of the incumbency, look at the incumbents there, and then you'll start to understand the governor map. So I believe I filled in all safe states for either political party. I'm actually going to move Oregon to the likely column. But still, we have 16 Republicans and 10 Democrats. So we have a couple of likely states that are still going to be either GOP or Democratic states. We'll start off with the GOP states. Texas, I see, is likely going to the Democrats with a popular Republican incumbent. Oklahoma as well, probably not flipping to the Democrats for a while, even though there was a talk about it for a little bit. Kansas is still likely for the GOP because there's going to be vote splitting between the Democratic nominee and the independent nominee or independent candidate, and it'll still remain in the GOP column even if it is by a plurality and not by a majority. The state of Tennessee I see as likely for the GOP, and new polls actually showed the Democrat leading in the state of Tennessee, but the Republican candidate is at 38%, and I believe the Democrats at 40%, so it's a 2% lead, but neither candidate is even close to 50%. So right now, I think the state will remain with its Republican identity and go into the Republican column by a likely amount of 5 to 10%. Another state that's considered likely, the state of New Hampshire, I see as likely for the GOP as of right now, giving the Republicans 21 seats. Georgia will come back to. Oregon I see as likely for the Democrats. This state actually has a great possibility of going to the Democratic Party, even though opinion polls show this race is tied. I expect more polls to come out that show the Democrats ahead as of right now. And then we go over to the state of New Mexico. That one's likely for the Democrats. Unfortunately for the GOP, they do have a GOP incumbent here, so this will be the first pickup that I've pretty much flipped of tonight for the Democratic Party, putting them at 12 seats, and of course the Republicans are at 21. So let's see where this stands right now on the governor map. Something unfortunate right now with 270 to win. I've noticed when I filled in a tilt, it works now, so that's pretty good. But before, if you looked at when I said, oh, tilt features are added to 270 to win, it didn't register when I went to the 2019 governors by party map. So now that's fixed, so that's pretty good. but we have 21 Republicans, 12 Democrats. Let's keep going through the video. So we go over to states like Maryland. My home state of Maryland, I'm actually going to characterize as leaning in the Republican column. A lot of people do see a Ben Jealous victory here, but unfortunately, I don't see it. Maryland is not a progressive state. Ben Jealous won his primary with 38% of the vote, and I'm not taking away from that. That was a huge thing for progressives, and it was a huge turnaround in a key Clinton Democratic primary state and key Clinton Electoral College state in 2016. But also, he didn't win by the same margins as a Clinton-type Democrat would. And also, Larry Hogan's currently pulling ahead of Ben Jealous by double digits. Ben Jealous is not even nearing that 50% mark, around 38, 39%. Larry Hogan is at 51, 52%. So he's currently leading, and he's already above that 50% mark, meaning he can afford to lose all the remaining undecided voters and just hold on to what he has now. Even though the state is predominantly Democratic, I see the state as leaning in the Republican column, but an argument can be made for Ben Jealous. But right now, I see the state as leaning in the Republican column, not tilting. There will be some states I will be considering tilting in either political party. Right now, Rhode Island, I see as narrowly leaning in the Democratic column, only for a slight period of time. It could actually end up being unlikely by the end of 2018, but right now, I see it as a likely state. The state of Georgia, I actually see as leaning for the GOP. The GOP is going to do very well here if they are able to rally behind that one candidate that pretty much blew out Casey Cagle in the GOP runoff primary. But right now, we can expect Georgia to get a little bit closer than you might expect because, again, not that much of a unified GOP. Even though it was a blowout for one candidate, that still means 30% of the voters may be disenfranchised at this point in time. And Georgia right now is one of those states that's going to have a lot of excited turnout amongst African Americans and a number of white Democrats, especially around, the Georgia 6th, Georgia 5th congressional districts that are going to be making a number of GOP incumbents worry about their House seats and possibly the GOP worry about the governor's race here. But I still expect it by the end of 2018 to narrowly go into the GOP column. But Illinois I actually see as leaning in the Democratic column. So this is a second flip of tonight, flipping Illinois to the Democratic column. Right now, with a very unpopular incumbent Republican governor going for re-election, we can expect the state to flip. Another state flipping, the state of Michigan. We see the state as narrowly going into the Democratic column with a very unpopular incumbent Republican governor. Even though he's not up for re-election, we can expect that Gretchen Whitmer will do pretty well according to opinion polls. She's leading by, I believe, 10% against every GOP candidate, or the smallest margin may be 8%. Right now, the Democrats are at 15. The Republicans are at 23. Another state I see is leaning in the Democratic column is the state of Colorado. Right now, I see the Democrats winning here by a narrow margin. But over in Alaska, that state I actually see as leaning, flipping from the independent column for the GOP. So actually, if you look at the map here, this was an independent seat, now going to the Republicans. So the first flip from, I guess, green to red, or the first flip for the Republican Party in their favor. The state of Maine I actually see as leaning in the Democratic column right now. The state of Maine, even though it does have a Republican incumbent, we are going to go into a Democratic wave year in a Democratic state. Maine will likely hold on and flip to the Democrats, especially since a number of political pundits agree with me on this call. I expect Maine to go blue. So the Democrats are at 17 and the Republicans are at 24. 3 leaning seats in the Republican column and 5 in the Democratic column. When we go over to states like Iowa, I see the state is still leaning for the GOP. Right above it, Minnesota, I see as leaning for the Democrats. The state of Nevada, we need to come back to. Pretty much all the rest of these races we are going to characterize using the tilting feature, which is a very, very good addition. I am very happy that this was added to the 270 to win map, especially for governor elections, because a lot of these are going to get very close, and I can't really put the state like Minnesota and Maryland on the same level, or states like Georgia and Ohio are on the same level as of right now. The Democrats are still at 18 seats, so they need 7 in order to tie the majority in the NGA, and the Republicans just need 1 more to retain, I guess, their majority of states won. But the Democrats have passed their number of 16, now at 18 seats. And then we look over at a state like Pennsylvania. Actually, I'm not going to characterize this race as using the tilting feature. I actually need to characterize Pennsylvania as leaning for the Democrats. I should have mentioned this before, but Pennsylvania is still going to hold on to its Democratic identity. Now we actually have 6 contested races, but the state of Connecticut I see as leaning in the Democratic column for right now. Sorry, not leaning, tilting. That's a weird term. I haven't used that since forever. Actually, I've never used that term in an election video before, but this state tilts into the favor of the Democratic Party right now, even though there is a very unpopular Democratic incumbent governor, I still think that these Democratic nominees, with opinion polling coming out showing them ahead by narrow margins, could narrowly, very narrowly, win in these races. So Connecticut is tilted into the Democratic column. Another state tilting in the favor of the Democrats, the state of Nevada. Opinion polling agrees with me with this on as well. The state of Nevada tilts into the Democratic column, giving the Democrats a total number of 21 governor seats and the Republicans at 25. And then we look at the rest of the map. We have Wisconsin, Ohio, Florida, and Arizona. We can go over to the state of Arizona. This one I actually see as tilting in the favor of the GOP. Before this one I had as likely a while ago, and then it went down to the leaning column. I actually see this one as tilting because opinion polling shows the current Democratic frontrunner and the Republican incumbent governor. The Republican incumbent governor is losing. He is losing to a Democratic challenger in the state of Arizona. Sounds pretty familiar, like the Senate race here, even though there is no incumbent in the Senate race there. Kyrsten Sinema is still doing pretty well against all GOP opponents. We could likely see Arizona get extremely close than what we expected not even a year ago. So 26 Republicans, 21 Democrats, the Republicans retaining the majority. But then we go over to a number of key races. The state of Florida I see as tilting in the favor of the Democrats. They no longer have a mildly popular incumbent governor on the Republican side, now extremely popular, but back when during his re-election bid wasn't popular. But also, this puts the Democrats at an advantage. They're winning in a number of these key states. The Senate race, I think, could be a little bit closer than we might expect for the governor race there, which is why I really want this tilt feature to be added to the Senate map. But I guess we can just deal with the governor map for right now. But Florida, I see as tilting in the Democratic column. Right now, Wisconsin, new opinion poll shows the state as tilting in the Democratic column. With those new polls that come out that show Tony Evers leading double digits against Scott Walker, who's going for a third term, we can actually put this race as in the leaning or likely column if I want to completely trust those polls. But right now I'm going to put it in the tilt column just to play it safe. In Ohio, I see us tilting for the Democratic Party, only because I'm seeing, again, new opinion polling, and also Mike DeWine is not doing as well as I expected. I expected this race to be a blowout for Republicans. They have John Kasich leaving. He is very popular in the state. It's not the case. What I thought in Ohio right now could get a lot closer than you might expect, especially with a popular Democratic incumbent going on the Senate ballot, which could definitely excite a number of Democrats. So looking at this map, this actually looks pretty familiar to what we've seen in a previous presidential election in terms of close races, but actually could closely resemble the 2008 map if these states were just blue. But still, the final map is at 24 Democrats and 26 Republicans compared to before where it was 16 Democrats, 1 independent, and 33 Republicans. So thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I will see you all tomorrow.